Oh my god. This episode was absolutely perfect. I really loved it. It was so heartbreaking and it was brilliant. It really was. It surpassed so many expectations. It was incredible. And I really loved it. So yeah, like Negan and Lucille, wow. Just wow. Anyway guys, so yeah. Join me, Lucamus Prime, as I review the Series 10 finale of The Walking Dead titled Here's Negan. On tonight's episode of Walking Dead, it begins with a scene in Alexandria where Maggie is walking Herschel, her son, through the streets of it, and they're talking when she spots Negan working on rebuilding a house in Alexandria. And she's still, of course, mad at him for what he's done, so she's glaring at him, staring him down. And Negan notices this. And then after that, we then see him going with Carol on a hunting mission, where he says thanks to her for getting him out of Alexandria because it's very intense where it is due to having to go with Maggie. And he then asks her if she can help him smooth things over with Maggie. Due to the fact that they have worked together to bring down Alpha, him and Carol. So he feels she at least owes him that much, which is very understandable because he helps to take down Alpha, the enemy of the group, so yeah. And then Carol leads him to the cabin which belonged to Leah. That woman who Daryl met who was a former owner of Dog. And Negan finds his stuff there, so Carol tells him that Daryl has helped her to move Negan in there, and then the council has decided to banish him. So what Negan wants isn't going to happen, so yeah. And it's better than what Negan deserves given their past history of him helping her. So Negan's disappointed, but he accepts it, and he asks if it really was a council that banished him or if it was just Carol on her own. But Carol does is she smiles and she tells him that the rabbit they caught in their hunting is for him to eat. And then she leaves him. So yeah. So that was a bit, quite harsh on Negan because he helped her. So I think he at least deserved an explanation, didn't he? So later that night, he's sat by the fire drinking, it looked like a drink of whiskey, when all of a sudden he hallucinated his younger self. By younger self, I mean the version we met in the Series 6 finale, where he looks something like this, see, where he's got his leather jacket and Lucille. And he actually says the same line he says when he bangs on Alexandria's gates in Series 7, episode, I think it's episode 4, I believe, of Series 7, where he goes, little pig, let me in. Like that. So I was putting a nice little callback. So young Negan taunts present Negan about how Negan believed that Alexandria's people would ever see him differently than who he truly really is. Being, the younger self that had been the brutal leader of the Saviours. But present day Negan calls his young self a clown and a cult version of personality with no cult. But then young Negan reminds present day Negan that he got on a lot further as Negan, leader of the Saviours, than he's gotten just by being kind. And then past Negan then says, it's time to face the facts, old man. You are nothing without her. Her being, of course, Lucille, Negan's wife. This makes Negan really angry, so he throws his glass at the chair, and this causes the hallucination of young Negan to disappear. Then the next day, Negan's carrying a shovel, and he heads into that same field where the All-Out War took place and ended, where a tree had, those church wall glass paintings on them, which was where he had his final fight with Rick. And he remembers when Nick slit his throat with a shard of glass, and also Michonne telling him during Series 9 that they don't have the Lucille bat, and it's still out there. So Negan then begins digging holes all over the field, and after digging a lot of holes, he eventually finds something, and which he hits pretty hard, so he digs further and further, and he finds Lucille, his bat, and he's very happy about it, while unaware that a walker, which appeared to be a zombified whisperer, I think, was walking up to him. Then we get a flashback of 12 years earlier where a young Negan tied to a chair in a bar. And his captors have got him there, and he begs them to let him go because his wife Lucille has cancer and she needs the chemotherapy drugs in the cooler he's got. And the lead, I think he's called Craven. He claims to be sympathetic towards Negan, but the bikers didn't find the doctors where Negan had claimed they'd given up the drugs from. And Craven doesn't believe him. But Negan luckily finds a loose screw in his chair and begins to unscrew it, unnoticed by Craven. And Craven says that if Negan helps them find the doctors, he will allow Negan to take drugs to Lucille. But if he doesn't, he'll pour them down the toilet and make Negan watch. And he punches Negan. So Negan agrees to tell Craven what he wants to know if he puts the drugs back in the cooler. So Negan begins to explain how the clinic is true. And he explains that 2 or 3 days before, he went to like a mobile campsite, armed with a pistol. And he aims his gun at the owner, which is a doctor called Franklin, and he sees there's 2 guards on top, but he's disorientated from tiredness, and he realises that they're dummies, just before someone knocks him out with a baseball bat, and it's none other than Laura, the future saviour. Yeah, she appeared in this as the friend of Franklin, which is pretty shocking, didn't expect her to show up. So Negan then wakes up later in the clinic, handcuffed to a chair, and Franklin releases Negan from the cuffs when he checks he has no problems, and he then feeds him some food because he's exhausted, dehydrated, and malnourished. And he asks him why he's trying to rob a doctor with an empty gun. And Negan tells him that his wife has cancer and is dying, and she needs her treatments because she's in the middle of it. And Franklin asks if he's a doctor, but Negan says he's a high school gym teacher. And he's been given a calendar of what to do and had to figure out how to do the injections. But luckily, Franklin gives him the medicine. Then we get another flashback to 6 weeks earlier, where Negan is with Lucille, and they're together, and we get lots of really nice scenes with them together. Where Negan's taking care of her, and where he reads to her, and he has to take care of walkers outside, and Lucille helps him. And what's cool, guys, is Lucille is played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan's real-life wife, Hilary Burton Morgan. And I gotta say, she was probably the highlight of this episode. She really, really nailed it as Lucille. She really did. She was brilliant. Like, she does such a great job in this story. So, yeah. So that's the reason why they were so close together on screen, because of social distancing, and why they got to kiss as well. And so that's because, they're married in real life. So, yeah. And they've also got a song which is called You Are So Beautiful as well, which they like to sing together. But yeah, I gotta say but Hilary was phenomenal in this episode in her guest role as Lucille. She was brilliant. So during a dinner time in which we're eating dog food, yeah, they're actually eating dog food, guys, which is pretty disgusting, because, ugh. And she has a bag containing like an anniversary gift for Negan, and it's his leather jacket, like this, which is pretty cool. And Negan's overjoyed, and she apologises for making such a big deal out of a credit card bill. And she wouldn't have made a big deal of it if she knew what was going to end. So yeah. So that was a pretty great moment. However, the next morning, the bad news is the ice in the freezer which contains her medicine has melted in the sunlight coming through the window, and the drugs have been ruined. So Negan tells Lucille, about a family that are coming to the area a while back looking for doctors travelling around in a mobile clinic, and he's confident he can find them. So he's about to leave, but then she stops him saying she's got something to tell him. So 7 months earlier, before this, Negan is playing a game, and he's trash-talking the people that are playing with him, and he's playing Gears of War 2 on those, which is pretty cool. And Lucille is angry about this. And she's also angry about, the bill for the jacket. But he insists he's got 2 leads on a new job, and he's just celebrating early. So after that, so Lucille reminds him that she's got an MRI scan the next day at 2:15, and she needs him to drive her home. But Negan then claims he's got a meeting with his probation officer at that time, and they're convinced everything will be fine, because he says 3 hours and then you're going to be fine. That's what he says. The next day, however, she's told she has cancer and she's devastated. She can't reach Negan or her best friend Janine to give her a lift home. So she decides to call Negan's probation officer to ask if, he's there. But she discovers he's not meant to see him for another 2 weeks. And she notices in her call log that Negan and Janine are unavailable at the exact same time. And she connects the dots and realises her husband's having an affair. Then she drives back. Now, but rather than tell Negan that she knows about the affair, she instead just tells him he's got cancer. And then she reveals to him, before he leaves to get the medicine, that she knows about it. And Negan asks why he's telling her this now, and she says, because he made up for it and he can stop, and if Negan really wants to help her, he can just stay with her. So Negan refuses to give up hope and insists that the chemo can work if they finish it, so Negan promises to get it, but she wants him to stay with her, but he refuses to give up and leaves to go and get it. Now this, of course, leads back into, the scene with, Craven, that guy. But when Negan gets back after being released, he hears Laura struggling in the RV, but he decides to leave anyway because he wants to help his wife. But when he gets back, he finds a note on the basement door reading, "Please don't leave me like this." And he comes in to find Lucille has turned into a walker. She killed herself by taking pills and suffocating herself with a plastic bag. So we don't know why she did that, maybe because she lost hope that Negan would ever return. And just like how he said to Father Gable in Series 8 episode called The Big Scary You, he can't bring himself to put her down with the baseball bat that Laura gave him earlier. So he sits with her drinking, and as the night goes out, he goes to the fence outside his house, he gets a barbed wire and he puts on a baseball bat, creating Lucille. But then he then decides to burn his house down, and it destroys the house, and Lucille and the house are engulfed in flames. So yeah, that was such a heartbreaking moment. Like, it got me pretty emotional. I think I teared up in that scene as well. It was so sad. Negan then returns to a bar where it's revealed that they're torturing Franklin and Laura for the location of the medicine. Negan kills all the bikers, and then after that, he comes in and rescues Franklin. He tells Franklin to go and rescue Laura while he deals with Craven. So we get a very amazing conversation between Negan and Craven. And then, just like Negan would with Lucille, he bashes his head in with Lucille. So yeah, that was the birth of the Negan we knew in the Series 6 finale, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. In the present day, Negan looks at his bat while Whisper approaches him. Negan puts Whisper down with 2 bullets to the head, but unfortunately, the bat breaks. I can't even that happened because of the comics. So yeah, that was pretty sad. So Negan's upset. He takes Lucille back to his cabin, and he apologises to Lucille, his wife, finally saying goodbye to her, and all the pain that he's put her through, and for naming a stupid baseball bat after her, and as I quoted. He then wraps the barbed wire in a towel, and then he burns Lucille in the fire, which destroys it. He then returns to Alexandria, and Carol, Daryl, and Maggie shocked to see him back. And she promises Negan that if they find any food, they'll give it to him. But Negan says it won't be necessary because he's moving back in. So yeah, so Negan what? And Carol promises to get Gable to approve his return, but warns Negan if he stays, Maggie will kill him. But Negan launches that it's fair enough, and as he's walking, he smirks at Maggie as he walks back to Alexandria, and that was it. This episode was perfect in every way. I really loved it. It was so amazing, really emotional. A long-awaited episode. This is probably my favourite episode in this block of series 10 episodes. It really was the best episode of this block of episodes. It was incredible. I loved it. So yeah. And I can't wait for Series 11, guys, which is coming later this year. I'm very excited for it. So, guys, I'm done with this review. I'm about to watch Talking Dead now. So, you know, drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to comment what you guys thought of tonight's episode as well. I'd recommend you go check it out if you haven't already, because it was incredible. Also, be sure to join Team Prime and subscribe more videos coming in the future. And I'll see you all later.